Friends creator gives a $4 million apology for the lack of diversity in the show. I'm embarrassed, she says. And the first thing I thought of when I read this was, I'll pay reparations to you. No, nobody loves the Friends theme song. It's a long since criticized part about Friends is like it takes place in New York, and it's New York is one of the most diverse places in the entire world. But the show is, of course, about like six heterosexual. That's in the article. Six cis heterosexual people, straight heterosexual white people that have the show, and there's very
because back then you didn't have to think about people as only their checkbox characteristics.
Right. Yep. So it says Friends has long been criticized for its lack of diversity, but creator Marta Kauffman is finally ready to admit her failure with a $4 million apology. Hollywood is a culture of guilt and also like weird moral superiority. Like, she feels
By the way, this
so good about herself.
She is an alumnus donating $4 million to her alma mater.
Yeah, her college.
To a university where they're probably going to spend it on like a fountain or something.
Yeah, they always have to build like a new student center that they don't actually need.
More critical race theory books from Ibram X. Kendi.
So it says Kauffman, 65, initially struggled to grasp the difficult, frustrating criticisms of her television series, choosing to believe the successful show had been singled out, she told the Los Angeles Times. But nearly 2 decades after the show wrapped, that's the important part to read there too, is it's literally 20 years ago. Kauffman has begun to see the error of her ways. It's literally a struggle session.
You mean people have only started to point out the perceived error of her ways because 20 years out? Because
culture has shifted, and now they're looking at it through a critical lens. Because
what's really wrong with Friends is the writing.
If you ever want to watch something,
casting wasn't an issue.
If you ever want to watch something terrifying, watch Friends without the laugh track. Ooh. It's absolutely insane. So it says, I've learned a lot in the last 20 years, Kauffman said in a Zoom interview. Admitting and accepting guilt is not easy. It's painful looking at yourself in the mirror. I'm embarrassed that I didn't know better 25 years ago, the television writer said.
Her $4 million will mean nothing to this cult that she's giving into.
Nope. They will ask for more.
Why? And like, if her offense is that she did not take diversity into account when casting.
She's also not the casting director.
Right, exactly. That's the first thing, okay? But like, secondly, why is it that her debt is now owed to academia?
Yeah.
Why is her debt owed to the world of academia?
Because it created the culture and the virus that made her have to apologize. They're the cult. They're part of the cult. They're the cultists.
Remember yesterday we were talking about R. Kelly and what racketeering was, and one of the cornerstones of a racketeering for like organized crime is like you create a problem and then come and offer to fix it. So it's like just imagine a bunch of like collegiate nerds and tenured professors who look like they've never had a day of fun or smiled a day in their life other when they're making other people's life miserable. And they walk into her life is basically a perceived like local business, and they come in with baseball bats that say diversity and say, sure would be a shame if somebody came in here and ruined your store and then break something off the counter. That's what this is. And they're like, but if you pay us, we can make sure that nobody ever criticizes you again.
Yeah, like, I mean, maybe this would make the teensiest bit of sense if she chose like a charity that vaguely was related to the topic at hand.
Or the industry.
Right.
Yeah. But really, she was just like getting letters from her alma mater being like, we need money. And then she decided to like put a spin on it that she's, a freedom fighter or something.
It's perfect that this comes right after the Bond thing, because it's all about trying to destroy the things in the past.
The things you loved.
They're good or bad, like with their flaws, which there's plenty in Friends. Like I realized I watched lots of Friends, and then I have a friend, we were talking about Friends for like a year, and I told him I never watched it. A year into our friendship, I'm like, oh, you know what? I did watch Friends. And it just went in one ear and out the other. It just doesn't mean anything. But it's all about just you got to destroy it all.
So it says throughout the popular show, which ran from 1994 to 2004, featured a group of 6 white heterosexual best friends living in Greenwich Village, a famously gay neighborhood in New York City, a historically diverse city. You also have to remember that it's not like she just made this show and it magically appeared on a television somewhere. There's producers, there's directors, there's people at all levels of the corporate structure of Hollywood that would have said, look, our focus groups say you can't do this. It's That's actually me like saying that it's not necessarily her fault. I don't believe for a second that she's like, we can't cast people. That's the thing.
Like, there's no fault to begin with. No. But this is like, if someone like at a McDonald's got your order wrong and then you wrote a letter directly to the CEO.
Exactly.
Like there's
give me $4 million.
No logic. It's just childish demands.
Yeah. Throughout the show's 10-year run, the sitcom continued to whitewash New York City and rarely featured a character of color. Friends only introduced 2 reoccurring characters of color, both of whom were brought on as short-lived love interests for Ross. Along with millions of other Americans, in the 2020 murder of George Floyd pushed Kauffman to reckon with the country's racist past and her own part in perpetuating systems of racism.
You know what? We need to take out Joey and put in a hologram of George Floyd.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we're good, right?
And then edit it. Like, the whole series will not be accessible anymore having Joey.
Yeah.
So it says,
totally.
She says, I knew then I needed to course correct. That does not make anything you made prior to that bad.
I don't understand how course correct means I already did this thing that I regret.
That I made a lot of money for.
That I made my fortune on.
Yes.
A course correction would have happened while you were still running the show.
Now, here's where the language gets really funny to me. It says, in an attempt to redeem herself, Kauffman pledged $4 million to her alma mater. Also take note of the word pledged, not donated.
After Amber Heard, we learned better than to believe that.
Exactly. Is it Brandeis University?
Brandeis.
Okay, I don't know. I'm a dumb. I don't have a Brandeis degree. To fund an endowed chair in the school's African and African American Studies department, one of the oldest in the country. That has nothing to do with Hollywood. That has nothing to do with casting in your industry, which, by the way, there's like, we're in a time now, Hollywood, when you look at these trades, if you look at The Hollywood Reporter or Deadline or any of these websites, Hollywood is more diverse than it's ever been in history, and that's a good thing. But the problem is you're going back and trying to now apologize for something that there was nothing morally wrong with.
This is, I have I have a friend who she's done very well, has a great business. And she got attacked during the summer of the riots, and she got attacked online for not posting a black box fast enough.
Compelled speech.
Yeah, and she was totally like outside of politics, didn't know really what was going on, didn't really think much of it, and then it was only after seeing the mob come after her on Instagram, where she was like, "Whoa, there's something happening out in this world that I don't know about, and it's pretty terrifying."
So it says the Marta F. Kauffman 78 Professorship in African and African American Studies will support a distinguished scholar with a concentration in the study of the peoples and cultures of Africa and the African diaspora, an assistant to the department to recruit more expert scholars and teachers, map long-term academic and research priorities, and provide new opportunities for students to engage in interdisciplinary scholarship. The Waltham, the Massachusetts-based university announced.
It
took me a long time. No, it gets funnier. It took me a long time to begin to understand how I internalized systemic racism. Kauffman's told what is it again? Brandeis. Okay. I've been working really hard to become an ally, an anti-racist, and this seems to me to be the way I could participate in the conversation from a white woman's perspective. She's literally saying my way of contributing to this conversation is by giving you money.
This sounds like white savior complex.
It does a lot to me. So it says last year's Friends reunion aired to honor the iconic show, its beloved characters and diehard fans. The show faced renewed calls to address its glaring lack of diversity. Address what? In what? What do they? All say we are sorry once and leave it be.
Don't even say sorry.
I'm saying they can't help themselves. They have to. Like, if you actually feel guilty for it, apologize once and leave it be. After that, let the people whine.
Yeah.
They have no problem changing everything right now anyways. And they don't apologize for that. That's fine. Don't apologize if you don't mean it.
Totally agree. We saw something similar with J.K. Rowling when she started apologizing and changing things, a few years ago.
Didn't help her either.
Didn't help her because you'll never be fully baptized into their cult.
No.
They'll always just eat you alive. It'll always happen.
She threw J.K. Rowling didn't even get invited back to the 20th or to the whatever anniversary that they did on HBO Max. They're like, it's the series by J.K. Rowling. And they're like, everyone's there. Rupert Grint is there.
Yep.
Daniel Radcliffe is there. Emma Watson's there. She's also there. There was a bunch of videos talking about how like she spoke out very heavily against J.K. Rowling, but saying nothing about Ezra Miller, who she knows.
Oh, I know, I love
what
it.
Emma Watson said was she would return to the franchise to play Hermione if J.K. Rowling had no involvement, acting as if Harry Potter is not what made Emma Watson Emma Watson.
Right. Or you can't even do a Harry Potter at all without J.K. Rowling's involvement because it's her brain.
Exactly.
It proves to you that they don't understand. Like that's literally like that's how much they view everything as IP and not as the beauty as a beautiful creation of an individual. They're like, well, what do you mean? Like, sir, she created it. You can't come back if she doesn't come back, you nut job.
Because they do believe the struggle session will root out the evil that they see.
Exactly.
It doesn't work that way.
Never-ending hazing ritual after hazing ritual.
And
you never get to be a part of the club.
Yep.
It's never enough.
So you need to stop trying, but like these people just fall for it every time, and it's disheartening to watch them.
It is. It's also kind of funny.
Well, yeah, like
kinda,
it's her $4 million.
I mean, you're out $4 million, so.
In my, like, to me, it's just frustrating. Like, I listen to these people do this, and it's just like, imagine working in an industry where everyone is so cutthroat and so rabid and so self-interested, but the way that they prove that they're self-interested, rabid, and cutthroat is by pretending to not be any of those things through virtue signaling.
Right. Could you imagine if there was some, like, older white actor right now or director saying, we got to revisit the Martin show because there's not enough white people on it?
That's okay. And that's the funny thing is that there's the first comment that was down here says, along with millions of, okay, let me go down here. They says, wasn't Friends on during the same stretch of years that TGIF featured 2 hours of all black sitcoms?
Girlfriends.
Family Matters, Hanging with Mr. Cooper quickly come to mind, not to mention countless other shows that include
A Different World,
Living Color, Martin. And it's like, you're rewriting our history through the lens of, these shows existed, but that's not enough for them. They also need to go into a space where a bunch of other stuff was successful because they understand that a show like Friends is also a cultural touchstone. So you can't crap on in Living Color, Martin, Hanging with Mr. Cooper, or Family Matters, nor should you.
Right.
But they don't believe in that. They are vicious, rabid, and want to come for everything that was a cultural touchstone in America, and it pisses me off.
Yep. It should. When do you think they're going to come for, like, How I Met Your Mother? You
Oh,
know?
yeah.
Like, it's going to happen.
All the, like
just
what
leading up to it.
you look at now is like all this stuff through the lens of whatever progressive bullshit you believe will be applied to stuff later. That's the problem with critical ideology is that it's basically the definition of Monday morning quarterbacking everything through a modern lens.
Right.
It's a lot easier to make that comment the next day than it is the day before.
For sure. All the stuff they're creating today that's like, you know, coming out of this cult that they're in, we're going to look at in 20 years, I think, and be greatly ashamed of, you know, because it's so clearly propaganda.
Someone commented they should remake Friends, but cast all of them as black or gay.
And
it'll be a hit. Like that.
We'll get all the people who get in trouble for wearing blackface.
The joke being that no one wants to see something that contrived and heavy-handed. And to begin with, like, Friends was received so well by a different culture than the one we have today.
A very different culture.
We know that because when we go back and rewatch it, we're like, well, this kind of sucks. And
and not just white people like Friends. Like, you don't have to be white to like it. Like, I loved Martin.
But
like,
these
that's
people
what I
don't.
watched.
Yeah, these people don't realize
because
that.
they're supremacists.
Yeah.
Like, they only see skin color. It's insane.
I love Family Matters. Like it's like they don't realize that culture was. This is a bad problem in comics as well, where they're pretending as if the industry wasn't diverse already.
Right.
Like these are the people. Remember, like I always like to make fun of like the fake award, like the fake firsts that they're always talking about. The first person to do this, the first person to do that.
Right.
This is a generation of people that have been raised. The example that sticks would always give is like gay marriage was like the last great American civil rights battle we had. I guess before recent, so he says like there's a whole generation of people who feel cheated out of the ability to be part of something like that. So now they're going back and trying to like reinstitute that type of belief into stuff that's already happened.
Right.
We were already a diverse culture long before these people came along.
Yes. Yeah. It's like going out west for the gold rush 10 or 20 years after they found all the gold.
Exactly.
You're just looking for dirt now.
So maybe I wouldn't be surprised if there was a comment like just 4 million, but you made so much money on Friends.
I did also think it was strange that she zeroed in on the African American studies department of the university when no one specifically said what race they wish had been casted.
Right.
She just kind of assumed that, which also is like very 90s. Like, there's black and white, and that's just it.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a soft bigotry of low expectations with these people every time.
It just bums me out because it's they're beautiful mediums, they're beautiful art forms, and when you make everything about identity politics, it ruins it. So, all right, super chats.
Unavailable ID name said Ross's ex-wife was a lesbian, and it was
True.
25 years ago. Joey was Italian. That's funny.
True.
Dizwiz said, I learned English while watching Friends. It's such a shame to see it suffering a struggle session in front of the Church of Woke.
It really
That's
is a struggle
awesome.
session.
That's a great way to learn
exactly what it
English.
is.
Waffle Sensei said, it's like you ordered a Big Mac in 2010, and then in 2020 you show up at McDonald's and yell, why didn't you give me the McRib a decade ago? It's better.
Great point.
That's good. Thank you. Bad App said, Friends should pay me reparations for watching the reunion. Did you guys watch the reunion?
I did not.
Okay. Unavailable ID name said, you guys are getting bot bombed. Yes, I'm aware.
Are we? Yeah.
Kind of.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.